Good morning and welcome to the Petitti Pro Garden Show. Thank you all so very much for getting up early and being with us on this nice Saturday morning. I am recording this show today because I am on vacation. So hopefully we have things up to date for you, but we have a lot of information because there's all kinds of things going on in the summertime. So let's bow our head and open in a word of prayer. Father, we just come before you today and we just thank you for your goodness and we thank you for your grace and we thank you for what you're doing for us in our lives and in our gardens, Father. Just watch over us and keep us safe and let us be a blessing to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you all so very much for being with us this morning. In the summertime, when we are dealing with wet, like we have this summer, this whole summer has been a little damp. We've been damp since the beginning of May. We have some really dry spells for a few days, and then we have lots and lots of rain. And we've been dealing with lots of humidity. And so the mosquitoes is definitely an issue. And so we're going to talk about mosquito prevention and how to stay safe from the mosquitoes. So first off, try not to have any standing water in your gardens, in your landscapes. So if you have a pond, you want to make sure that it's moving. If you have bird baths, you want to make sure that you're changing it out quite frequently. And if you feed animals, you want to make sure that you're changing that water out on a regular basis. Now, there are some things, if you do have standing water somewhere, like a pool for your ducks, let's say, and it doesn't get changed out every single day. When the mosquito larva is laid in that water, you can add the plunkets by Bonide, which is a great little, it just stops that larva from growing any further, so it doesn't grow into a mosquito. Those are great. We also carry the Dunkets, another company, the product, but works the same way. It stops that egg from going into the next stage of life. Safe completely, though, for your ducks and the birds and anything else that's going to be drinking out of that water source. Also, if it's an area that you live next to a vacant lot, you live next to some place that's not being maintained properly, to prevent mosquito infestation, adding these to that water will definitely save you headache and itching, and definitely it could even save you illness because West Nile virus happens. And I don't know if there's been any diagnosed in Stark County this year yet. But it's something that we need to think about because we have had it in the past. So you want to make sure that you're using a product like this in any standing water. But remember that you don't have to worry that your dog's going to be drinking out of it. So you're going to be okay there. Also, there are going to be mosquitoes that hatch. So we need to make sure that we're prepared for that. So when you're working in the lawn or in the garden, it's always a good idea to use a mosquito repellent. And the easiest way is to spray the area that you're working in. So you can, if you're working out in the garden, you're not going anywhere but in the garden, spraying that area down with the Bonide mosquito beater is going to be a great way. You can put it on your hose end and spray around the whole area. You can spray it into the garden, and then you can be throughout the whole garden and not have to worry about the mosquitoes eating you alive while you're out there working. Also comes in a granular form, so you can sprinkle it around the garden. That works very, very well for an extended period of time also. Also, this works great if you're having a party and you are going to be out on the patio, out on the deck, at the fire pit. This product, granular and liquid hose end, works great to keep the mosquitoes and also the ticks and the fleas and the no-see-ums and the gnats and the deer fly all away from you. So, so many times, we think, we're going to be there during the day. It's not going to be evening. We're not going to have to worry about mosquitoes. But but the deer fly are out during the day. And some mosquitoes too, depending on how damp the area is. But this product works on all of those as well. So it's a great thing to have on hand, and a great thing to keep up with. So that product is one of my favorite, along with St. Gabriel's mosquito and tick repellent. Both very, very good products. The St. Gabriel's is only in a hose end. And the Bonide is a hose end and a granular. Works great. We are using the granular, I think I've said this earlier in the season, in a greenhouse. We have a greenhouse that the deer fly every year are terrible. And I wear shorts most of the time in the greenhouse, and they eat my legs up while I'm in that greenhouse watering. And as soon as it starts, every year, get out the mosquito beater granular. I sprinkle it down on the floor in that greenhouse, and I can water for up to 2 weeks without any deer fly bothering me. So in the middle of the day, I am not like going crazy scratching my legs because the deer fly has eaten me up. This deer fly, I don't know where they go, but they are not eating me up anymore. So it's a great product to have. Works great, like I said, on the mosquitoes as well. The next question that we did have was about tomato blight. And, this is time for tomato blight. Late blight is coming on right now. And if you are just noticing it very slightly, yellowing leaves at the bottom with a few dark spots, you want to trim those leaves off and then spray your plant with copper fungicide. We do, and we've mentioned this in the past, have a couple recommendations on how to trim those off. If you use scissors or your pruners or even a knife, or even if you have nails where you can pinch off your limbs that have any of the blight on them, or powdery mildew. Remember, that's a disease also. When you trim these leaves off, you want to make sure that you spray with the copper fungicide on the pruners, on your hands, on your scissors, whatever you're using to cut these off, so that you are not spreading that spore further up. And sometimes you're like, well, I'm really, really careful, and I only cut off the ones that already have the blight, so I'm going to be okay. But sometimes those spores, as you're cutting, will fall onto your hand, and then your hand will brush the next leaf up as you're moving around and trimming those off. So it's always a very good idea to mist your hand and your pruners between every single cut so that you don't spread that disease further up your plant. Remember, you need leaf tissue for photosynthesis so the plant stays healthy while your fruit is ripening. So you want to make sure that you do that, and that will definitely help. Another thing to do, once you have trimmed off all of these limbs, you get rid of these leaves. Not always a good idea to put them in your compost pile because we don't know if we're going to have a cold enough winter to kill off those spores. But also, once you get rid of these into the trash, or you can burn them, that's a great way to do it if you have the opportunity to burn them. But you also want to mist the ground all the way around the plant in case those spores did drop to the ground. The copper fungicide is going to kill the spores that are on the ground as well. So when the next time we have a nice hard rain, the rain hit the ground and bounce the spores back up to the next set of leaves that are there. So it's a good idea to use that copper fungicide. Copper fungicide this time of the year might just become one of your very best friends. It's also going to help with that powdery mildew that you're dealing with, also with downy mildew that you might be dealing with on your cucumbers, your squash, even your pumpkins. A lot of times your melons will get the downy mildew. So you can prevent that and halt it. If you have a bad case of downy mildew, it is going to be hard to completely stop it. But you will be able to really slow it up with the copper fungicide. So it's a good idea to have even a concentrate bottle, some of the dust after a rain, to dust your plants with it, and you will notice that you have a significant amount of success with that copper fungicide. But remember, the copper fungicide is not the best for your grapes. So if you have been dealing with that, I have some friends that I went to school with. They bought a house. It had a grape arbor. and they have been battling their grapes with some issues. Sulfur fungicide is your fungicide of choice for your grapes. Remember, once the fungus gets too bad on your grapes, so it's probably too far gone. But remember, stopping it, getting it on the ground so that it doesn't spread to the following year, and also the following year spraying early as soon as you have full leaf out to prevent that, so that you have some nice grapes for whatever you're making. If you make your own wine, if you're making grape jelly, all of those kind of things, your own grape juice, it's great to have your own grapes, to know what they're. And the sulfur fungicide is a great way to have an all-natural way to control that disease without having heavy chemicals on there. So that's a great way to do that. Copper fungicide, sulfur fungicide, some of the best out there, chemical or organic, and you can use them to have great success with your fruits and vegetables if used properly. The next question that we had was about elderberries and blackberries, and we're going to sort of do these together. Elderberries and blackberries not coming on, and they thought that there was something wrong. My raspberries are producing very well. Blueberries have started producing. My elderberries and my blackberries not here yet. It's because it's not season for them yet. They are a later season berries. Your elderberries are going to be coming on usually toward the end of August. Your blackberries about mid-August. So they are a little bit later. So nothing's wrong with your plants. If you didn't fertilize, though, this spring, I would still go ahead and do it, especially if your plants are in flower. Giving them some extra fertilization at this time is definitely going to be good for them. They're really pulling nutrients. Anytime a plant is in flower, lots of nutrients are being pulled from the soil. So this is going to be a great time to go ahead and give it a fertilization, especially if you didn't do it in the springtime. So you want to make sure you do that. And also, if your berries have not started producing yet and you're waiting on them, remember that if you have a lot of weeds around your plants, you want to get rid of those weeds. And there's no better way to do that than pulling them. And so pulling the weeds around, the roots of your weeds are not going to be pulling any nutrients, and that's going to help your plant. And also, it's better for you when it comes time to harvest. You're not going to have to worry about those weeds being around. So get those plants weeded around, and then you're going to have a nice harvest, and you won't have all the nuisance of the weeds being there when you're doing that. And you should not have near as many problems. But they should be coming on very soon. And remember, elderberries are very small, so it's going to take a lot. So if you only have one plant, you're going to have enough to maybe make a little mini pie. But if you want to make jelly, it's going to be tough for you with only one plant. So make sure that you're, in the future, maybe planting more plants of the elderberries. Wonderful plant, wonderful fruit, high in antioxidants, just amazing for you. I think it could be called a superfood if they haven't already. Your elderberries are going to be great for you. It's not an acquired taste for some people, but remember how great they are for you. But they should be coming on very, very soon. Just make sure that they're all nice and healthy with some good fertilization. The next question that we had was about our shrubbery. And some people had asked if in the middle of the summer, if they could, trim their shrubs. And there are things that you can trim, and there's things that you shouldn't be trimming. You should never trim, and I don't think, and 34 years of being in the landscape industry, I don't think you should trim your shrubs when it's over 90 degrees, even 85. That is too hot for you to be outside working like that. And so it's really stressful for the plant as well. So a little bit cooler temperatures, but this time of year, sometimes we're like, this is the only time I have to do it and I have to get it done. So choose early morning or late in the evening. That's going to be a better time, less stressful for you and less stressful for the plant if you need to trim in the middle of the summer when it is really hot outside. So morning or evening is going to be a little bit better. Again, we have talked about this in the past, probably multiple times. There are plants that you do not want to trim at this time of the year. Anything that's going to be blooming late in the season. So if your mums has not started blooming yet and you want to take down some size on them, you're getting a little late, because if you trim them now, you could probably still have some flowers late in the season, but you're not going to be having mum flower at peak season, which we usually all consider sometime right around the 1st of October. Your mums are going to be blooming. So if you want your mums blooming at Halloween, probably going ahead and trimming them now wouldn't be a bad idea. Also, you're probably still safe to do your rhododendrons and azaleas, but you do want to get them done right away, because by the end of August, they will be setting their bud for next year, and so you would be trimming that off. Your forsythia as well. If you don't have your forsythia trimmed, you want to make sure that you get it done right away so that you don't lose bloom for next year for your forsythia, because they bloom so early. But any of your fall bloomers, if you did not trim your Rosa Sharon yet, they are just getting ready to bloom. I actually saw a few of them blooming this past week. So if you didn't prune your Rosa Sharon yet, you should wait till after they're done blooming, because they're probably budded up if they're not coming into bloom right now. So you don't want to sacrifice flower, so I would not be doing any type of trimming to them. When we come to your evergreens, it's going to be safe, like I said, unless it's 95 degrees outside and you're burning up. You can go ahead and trim your evergreens, and that is your leafed evergreens as well as your needled evergreens. Needled evergreens are your arborvitas, your dwarf Alberta spruces, any of your pines, mugo as a shrub type, or a Scotch pine tree. And your regular spruces, I said the dwarf Alberta, but if you have a blue spruce in your yard or a Norway spruce, you could go ahead and trim those also. Your hemlocks, it's safe. Your boxwoods, your hollies. The only thing with your hollies, if you can let them go till later in the season, I always say hollies and even boxwoods, they make great holiday decorations. So if you can prune in November, let's say, so that you have them ready for your holiday decorating, why not wait? And trim at that time so that you can use all of them for holiday decoration. You can trim at that time, cut your trimming, of course, always at an angle, but then you can put it down into some oasis and use it for decoration, and it will last the entire holiday season. And if you spritz it with some Wilt Proof or Wilt Stop by Bonide, you can lock in that moisture, and it will last well into January and sometimes February, those greenery. So if you want something to last you long, those products is going to really help that. And you can go ahead and do that in the November timeframe. But those are the only ones that you don't have to wait. But that's a sort of a cool thing to do, is to wait till later in the season so that you can have some fresh cut greens of your own to use in there. That's going to be a great and a lot of fun too. But so you can go ahead and trim those shrubs up. Also, it's not a bad idea to clean up your perennials mid-season. A lot of your things are done blooming and the flower stalk is still there. A lot of daylilies, the flower stalk of the ones that were completely finished blooming has died off, but some of the others are still coming on. So this is a good time to go ahead and trim those up and get the dead out of there, clean them up a little bit so that your garden, your flower garden, your perennial beds still have a nice fresh look to them throughout the heat of the summer. And remember, if we go into a droughted spell, watering early in the morning is going to be a good idea. Now, this also comes into the question where can I still plant in the heat of the summer? And a few weeks back, we mentioned this. If you're not going on vacation and you're going to be home, it's fine to go ahead and plant. But because you're going to be able to water, because you're going to be there. But it's a good idea to do your watering in the morning, not in the heat of the day, and in the evening, the plant is stressed all day long. So get up a few minutes early before you leave for work. Go out and water your plants. If you're doing any new planting, that's the time of day to get them watered so that they don't stress throughout the day. That's also the time if you're doing any overseeding to your lawns during the summertime, you needed to do some of that. Water first thing in the morning. And also remember, like I've always told you, you always water your planters and your hanging baskets first thing in the morning so that the plants do not stress all day long before you get back. This is also a great time of the year if your hanging baskets are starting to not look so good. You can trim them back to the bottom of the pot. You should have been continuing to fertilize, but if you haven't or you've skipped a few weeks, give them a nice bloom boosting fertilizer and they will come back for you. Now, if you have let them go too long, we started some late, also trimmed ours back early, so we have some really nice looking hanging baskets. And you can come in and get some new ones so that the rest of the season you still have nice looking hanging baskets out there. So you do have a couple options when it comes to your hanging baskets or your planters. You can fix them by coming out and buying a few more plants and sprucing them up, or you can go ahead and be a little bit more patient, trim them up, give them a good fertilization. Remember, it's always a good idea to continue fertilizing your hanging baskets, even if you bought from a place that says we put in an extended fertilizer or a slow release fertilizer in there when you buy them. By this time of the season, and you're watering and watering and watering every single day, you have those fertilization pebbles that they put in there have all washed out. They've all decomposed, and your plant is definitely in need of some good fertilization. So get on a good fertilization plan and you can spruce them back up. It is going to take a couple weeks for them to look good by doing it that way, but you can do that and get them back looking a little bit nicer for you. Now, the last thing that we had was about indoor plants. And so many times at this time of the year, we're all concentrating on our outside plants, our containers outside, our vegetables outside, harvesting in our garden, and we don't come in the house till late at night because we have so much going on, and our house plants suffer. And if you're not someone that takes your houseplants outside during the summer, you leave them inside. They have their place inside. They're doing well inside. You don't move them, but you forget about them in the heat of the summer when you're busy. You do need to make sure that you pay attention to them. So maybe this is a good weekend to go ahead and check over your hanging baskets that you have inside. If you have some nice hanging Boston ferns that stay inside or some beautiful spider plants that stay inside, you want to make sure that you are paying some attention to them. They're very resilient and they're there for you, but you want to make sure that you do use some great indoor fertilizer on them. Make sure that they're cleaned up. That's going to help keep new growth coming on. And maybe they do need to go outside. This is a great time to actually clean your houseplants. So many times we have our houseplants hanging, and just like our furniture gets dusty, our houseplants get dusty the same way, and sometimes their little pores will get clogged up. So get them outside and spray them off with a garden hose, and then give them a nice fertilization when you're giving them some water, and then you can bring them back into the house. But that's a great way to wash off their leaves, clean them up nice, and they're going to be able to do very well for you. Well, we've gone through the show, just about the whole show, and I haven't even told you, if you have questions, how you can get them to us. You can always bring them to my attention at my email address. Send me an email with your photos and your questions at Cindy Petitti, CindyPetitti @gmail.com. You can call us with your questions at 330-455-5997, or better yet, you can come out to the store at 5828 Columbus Road and bring us your questions, and we will be able to answer them right there on the spot. We are in Nimishillen Township. We have a Louisville address, but we're right on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway. Very easy for you to find. So we're right down the street from Skyland Pines Golf Course, just east, and just northwest of downtown Louisville. So we're very easy to find. Remember, we are closed on Sundays now. We are open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. This coming Monday, we will still have vacation hours, 9 to 5. But we will go back on the 25th, this Tuesday the 25th, to our regular hours of 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Don't forget your farmers markets today, downtown Canton, downtown Alliance, and downtown North Canton. There'll be farmers markets going on all over there. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. Being patient with everyone last week. We want to thank you for that. Sarah and Brennan in advance wants to thank you for their help and they they're always nervous when I'm not there. And so last week I wasn't there. And so it's great for you all to be patient with them when you come in. And thanks all for listening and being with us. And I hope you all are back here with us on the last Saturday of July. Cannot believe next Saturday is the last Saturday of July. We're getting ready for Stark County Fair next month. And we will be right there ready for you to have all of your questions answered. We'll be there all the time. Well, thank you all so much for being with us. You have a blessed week. We will see you back here next Saturday at 8 a.m. right here on The Light, 95.9.